Welcome back. Welcome back, everybody. Sorry for the delay. I had to handle a couple things, and I just heard about Dolly Parton. Guys, god damn it. That makes me really, really sad, but even more grateful for Anne's presence to me from her truck stop. And yeah. But the good news is, guys, for all of us Dolly fans out here, a secret album that she recorded many years ago will now be released. It is hidden in Dollyland. It will be unearthed as part of her will, and we will get brand new music from Dolly, which is probably one of her many gifts to the world. But yeah, definitely R.I.P. to Miss Dolly Parton. Holy cow. Guys, also, can I just say, this is appropriate. I ordered a sandwich. Now, the bread is delicious. There's supposed to be a lettuce, onions, and tomatoes in here. Do you guys see any of that? No, it's just meat and pepperoncinis. And then I had to add my own Dijon. I'm very disappointed right now. I do need to keep eating. We're going to do that. And we're going to keep watching this trial here. We're going to pick up. Whoa. We're going to pick up right where we left off before I went to therapy. So there we go. Yeah, Dolly was an amazing woman. Yeah. All right, let's pick up right where we left off, guys. Here we go. We're in the middle of Reddington's Cross on the dock here.
And the DSM, using that book, is in fact defined as an altered mental state. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And would you agree with me that in your evaluations of Lindsay, after you guys had the chance to speak to her and consider all of the documentation, your opinion ended up, using your words, being in your mind two possible explanations? We talked about that, right?
Yes, we did.
Okay. And then you indicated that there were some possible things that made me believe that there was severe mental illness involved, right?
Yes,
And there was severe mental illness involved, right?
There were some possible things that made me think that it might have been a psychotic episode.
Right, but there were severe mental illnesses involved here, right?
Yes, there were.
Okay.
It's just a question of which kind.
Semantics.
Yes.
You talked about thought broadcasting, right?
Yes, I
And
did.
thought broadcasting, sir, would be if somebody hears a voice and is concerned that somebody else might have heard it, right?
No.
Okay, well,
Thought broadcasting.
That's what thought broadcasting is. Are you aware that Lindsay Clancy indicated to anybody that she was hearing or having these intrusive thoughts in her mind? Yes or no?
Yes.
Did she indicate that she was afraid that people could read her mind or knew what these thoughts were or whatever they were in her mind, intrusive thoughts?
She was afraid of that, and so one of the reasons that I asked her about the difference between hallucinations.
All right, hold on, please.
I can't be more clear.
Question, all right? And then if the Commonwealth wants to follow up, they'll be able to do that.
All right.
Go ahead.
Did she, according to Dr. Elburn's review, all the information in all the hours of time,
Yes.
determine that she was afraid that people could read her thoughts or knew what her intrusive dark thoughts were?
Yes.
Who did she say that to? Just who?
Well, she said it to me.
Okay.
She said it to Dr. Mack.
Yeah, I'm sure she said it to Mac too. Put you guys aside. Who else, like people, normal people, did she say that to? Not to get on normal, but I mean people like friends or family or citizens or whatever.
I believe she said it to Patrick.
Okay.
And she may have said it to others as well.
She may have said it to others as well.
I don't remember who else she said it to, but she said it to Patrick.
Well, how
Once
many
again,
people can testify
Patrick.
About a young lady that is saying to people that she's having thoughts that are intrusive and dark and that she's worried that other people are reading her mind and know about it, and you don't even know who she said it to.
No, overruled.
One of the things that she said is that her thoughts were kind of intrusive and loud and, I mean, that sort of thing. And one of the things that she said was that she thought that because of that, other people might be hearing them or might know what they were.
Like even worried about dropping little Cora off at the school, and she was afraid that the teachers could hear her voices or thoughts.
Isn't that the definition of thought
I did read
broadcasting?
that, and that's one of the reasons I asked her for the difference.
Right. When I asked you if there were any, so that refreshed your memory, that there was another person that she was concerned about.
Yes, I believe that's right, yes.
How about her friends? Do you recall her telling her friends that she was worried about the teachers being able to read her thoughts?
I do not.
You indicated yesterday that one of the concerns or one of the issues or possibilities was, at the time of the killings, was acute psychosis, right?
I thought one of the possible explanations.
I don't want to let you run off, sir.
No, Counsel, next question.
Do you agree, sir, that you testified yesterday that at the time of the killings, one of the possible concerns that you had was whether or not there was an acute psychosis?
One of the possible explanations for her motivation and her state.
So the answer is yes, right?
No, overruled.
That's what you said yesterday, right?
Not exactly the way you phrased it, and that's what
Okay.
I'm responding to.
We're going to double check the transcript.
Yesterday, sir, you were asked, the next part of the evidence or what you saw against acute psychosis, and you referenced this discussion of whether this was postpartum. So let's stop there for a minute. Again, you know that postpartum is not a diagnosis, right?
I do know that, yes.
Okay. But the reason that it was not, as you put it, postpartum, is because she was about 8 months away from having given birth to Calvin, right?
Yes.
And most of the explanations from the authorities, like DSM-5, would point to maybe 1 month after birth, or maybe give a little bit, maybe 2 months after birth, or something like that. That's what you said yesterday.
Yes.
And what's that based on in Dr. Heldman's mind? What's that cut off about? 1 month, maybe 2?
It's based on what DSM-5 says, or the Cleveland Clinic actually said 6 to 8 weeks, if you look at their website. So it's based on accepted authority within the field.
Is it World Health Organization accepted authority in the field?
It's one accepted authority, yes.
Okay, what do they say?
I don't know what they say.
Like, would you be surprised if I told you they say up to a year that a woman can be experiencing postpartum psychosis or postpartum depression? Up to a year or even longer?
There are different kinds of
Correct.
outcomes and time periods that different
I'm not
organizations
asking
use.
about outcomes and time periods. I'm asking about the World Health Organization cutoff for a woman with postpartum depression or psychosis. What's the time frame?
Well, I don't know.
And then you indicated, now, it could be something else, and there was certainly some stuff that I saw that were symptoms of depression and other sorts of things that she experienced in January, but it was, given the time, it was less likely, I
Laney.
thought, to be postpartum. What did you mean by that?
I meant that she was 8 months after giving birth to Callan. And if you look at two sources of authority, which I relied on, the DSM-5 and the Cleveland Clinic, then neither one of those would suggest that postpartum was the more likely explanation as opposed to something else.
Which are outdated
If
and
we
incorrect.
put aside the DSM, when was the DSM? Strike that. Would you agree that the DSM virtually only mentions the whole concept of postpartum psychosis, postpartum depression in 2 paragraphs?
I would agree that they don't consider it to be a mental diagnosis in the same sense that other diagnostic areas are described in that manual.
Okay. Think that should change?
No, overruled.
Do I think it should change?
Yeah, you.
The way I look at this is that the DSM-5 and the Cleveland Clinic and the World Health Organization reflect different outcomes, and I think that one of the things that they do on the conservative end is they reflect something that is basically a month, a month or 2 months, and something else on the very extended end is a good bit longer. I think it depends on a number of things in terms of how it changes, and I'm not in a position to offer an informed opinion on that, really.
Obviously.
That'll be stricken.
Doctor, if Ms. Clancy had a genuine command hallucination, which in fact did cause her to feel compelled to carry out the killing of her children
Yes.
and herself, would you agree that she lacked substantial capacity to conform her conduct to the requirements of the law? If in fact that was a genuine command hallucination that she believed?
That would depend on a number of things. It would depend, for
Let's
example.
not go through a number of things. So your answer is no?
And my answer would be it depends.
Okay, so it depends.
Next question.
Would you agree, sir, that in December of 2022, and she told you that at that time frame she had these thoughts that were in her head that would, quote, pop into her head, intrusive thoughts that included that her brain was damaged and that she had to kill herself? And she told you that, right?
She did.
Do you believe she was telling you the truth, sir?
Yes.
I stand corrected in one regard, sir. This morning I started off my questions by asking you about 49 years ago when you published an article on postpartum psychosis, and you agreed. You were in college or something. But in fact, it was not postpartum psychosis. It was about schizophrenia, wasn't it?
He never even wrote about this
I have to
topic.
think back 49 years, but I think that's right, yes.
Transcripts of interviews with 32 schizophrenic patients, 15 male, 17
Hey,
female,
Melissa.
all with primary or secondary paranoid symptomology, were edited only to delusion-relevant material Does that refresh your memory, sir?
It does.
Okay, so it wasn't postpartum psychosis. You've never written about postpartum psychosis, right?
That's right.
Okay. So finally, sir, would you agree, and if you don't, just say, no, I don't agree. Postpartum depression. Are there tests that can be administered to? I'm not talking about a guy who's upset about his job. I'm talking about a woman who's just had a baby, who's going through the postpartum period, exhibiting signs of depression and or psychosis, okay?
Yes.
All right. Would you agree with me? A person can complain that they're less able to laugh or see the funny side of their life. Is that a symptom, sir, if you know?
Are you asking me if that's a symptom of postpartum depression specifically or depression more generally?
Oh, no, I'm asking you, okay? Do you agree that a patient would complain that they're less able to laugh and see the funny side of life?
That's a symptom of depression.
All right, you're going to tell me it's a symptom of
or it could
depression
be-
constantly. My question is, do you agree that it's a symptom of postpartum depression?
Yes.
Okay. Not looking forward to things.
And let me just say,
Oh, no, I don't want to let you do anything. Can you just tell me if
don't.
letting someone stopping looking forward to things is a complaint that is common to postpartum depression?
yes,
Anxious and worried for no good reason.
yes,
And Lindsay complained of anxiety and being worried for no good reason constantly, right?
yes.
She blamed herself for a lot of things in her life. Isn't that right?
She did, yes.
And she was not looking forward to the future. She was not happy with her life in the sense of the way she felt and wanted to go back to the way she was, right?
That's right.
How about complain? When I say complain, I don't mean complaining. It's just that that's the language you guys use. Complain about overwhelmed. Her day is overwhelming.
Yes,
So unhappy that she would cry constantly.
yes,
Sad and miserable.
yes,
Thoughts of harming herself, which is, according to the Mass Department of Mental Health, a flag in and of itself. She had thoughts
It
of harming
should be.
herself, right?
she did.
Okay, so those are all of the postpartum depression symptoms that a person can have, according to Mass General Hospital's 3-year review of postpartum depression and psychosis. So she hit all of these symptoms, right?
Hey, Kathy.
Those are symptoms of postpartum depression. They're also symptoms of depression.
I don't care
broadly.
what I'm asking you, sir. Are they symptoms of postpartum depression?
Yes.
All right. And there's a tool that psychologists can use with a woman who's coming to a doctor for help because of the symptoms of postpartum depression. Is that correct?
Yes.
And what is that tool?
I don't know what the tool is, but I'm sure there is a measure of it, yes, of postpartum depression.
Okay. Have you ever used that measure?
I have not.
Have you ever read about it?
Possibly.
Do you even know what it is?
I don't know what it is.
How about postpartum psychosis, sir? Same.
Thank you for
study.
being here, Pillow
Hearing
Sham.
voices or a voice commanding a person to act. That's in the DSM, right?
Yes. Command hallucinations, yes.
Delusional beliefs or distorted reality is a symptom that a person can complain of, right?
Delusional beliefs,
And
yes.
and
Fixed false
distorted
beliefs,
reality.
yes.
Yeah, it's just next statement. Confused, disorganized thinking. She had that, right? It's in your report, I think, that she was baking or making a pie or something and forgot where she was.
She was, yes, she was having trouble with memory, attention, and concentration.
All right.
My God, these are
Anxious
yes or
and worried for
no's.
No good. Strike that. Apologize. Severe sleep deprivation. She had that, right?
Yes.
Rapid mood swings. She had that, right?
Not sure she had that.
Well, how about the time that Patrick told you that she would repeatedly find herself in the living room on the sofa and bury her head in the pillow and rock back and forth, crying hysterically?
When you said mood swings, that implies that at one moment you're feeling down and sad and depressed, and in another moment you're feeling quite differently. So
Right,
I
and then
don't
she
see
took
that
the
the
kids.
mood swings she had.
Oh, all right, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't see that she was experiencing mood swings so much as she was experiencing symptoms of sadness and feeling down and lack of motivation, which are symptoms of depression.
What is akathisia?
Why won't he acknowledge that she had postpartum depression?
AKTHESIA, I believe.
Yeah, I'd have to look that one up.
Okay. Feeling overwhelmed. She felt overwhelmed.
She did, yes.
Not herself. Family seeing the change, obviously. Right?
Repeat the question, please.
Yeah, not herself. Semicolon. Family seeing the change.
Pillow, just as a note, and everybody, I'm a very strong opinioned woman. I know that I can be wrong, and my opinion can change. And I love a good spirited debate. So all opinions are welcome here, as long as you follow the one chat rule, which is don't be a dick. Just don't be mean about it. That's all.
Yes, correct.
Lord knows. I mean, the mother-in-law, the father-in-law, her mother, her father, her husband, neighbors, people could see the change in her, right?
Yes, they did.
Yep.
Okay. Continuing on with postpartum psychosis. Not herself. Thoughts of harming her children. That's a big red flag, isn't it?
Yes,
Okay. Thoughts of suicide. She complained of that, right?
correct.
Poor insight. She had poor insight at the end of January, didn't she?
I would not say she had poor insight. No, I think she understood pretty much where she was and the difficulty she was having and was aware of a number of things about that.
So, Your Honor, thank you.
Judy Sprague.
Thank you, Your Honor. Doctor, those symptoms that Attorney Reddington just read you about postpartum depression, are those also symptoms for general depression?
There are symptoms for general depression. They are, to some extent, symptoms of major depression, which is a more extreme example, a more extreme version of general depression. And there are also symptoms of bipolar disorder and bipolar 2. And I thought at the end of this evaluation that her correct diagnosis was bipolar 2.
And why was that?
One of the reasons, as I testified
Objection,
yesterday,
he
is that
didn't
she has
answer
been
the
in Tewksbury
question.
for 3.5 years, and that is her diagnosis of rapid
Thank you,
bipolar
Bill.
disorder. But what that indicates to me is that having
Right,
had the chance
Miriam?
to see her prescribe medications and do a number of things, that they really think that she has a mood disorder of a fluctuating kind, a bipolar sort, as opposed to a major depression or some other kind of disorder.
Now, you were asked by defense counsel about the fact that you interviewed Ms. Clancy a little over 3 years after she killed her children. And your testimony was it's better to interview the person as soon as possible, right?
Correct.
But you were able to watch Dr. Resnick's interview of the defendant about 3.5 months after the incident happened, correct?
Yes.
And you were able to review all of her records leading up to when she killed the children and then after she killed the children all the way up to present day, correct?
Yes.
Allegedly.
That you typically have when you do these forensic reviews, that much
Allegedly.
information, medical history and information on a patient?
I had more records information in this case than I have ever had in my career.
And so, also, were you aware that you weren't allowed to interview the defendant until the court gave permission?
I really wasn't. I didn't know how the process worked.
But as soon as you were informed that you could meet with the defendant, you did, correct?
Yes.
And the fact that you had all of these resources, the records, the prior interviews, the recorded interviews of witnesses, the criminal file, the collateral interviews that you did that in any way aid you in overcoming whatever deficits you might have had in interviewing her 3 years later?
It did, yes.
And how so?
Because of how extensive the records were from different people, different observations, different times, and so on, they, in effect, created something that I would have tried to do myself if there had been fewer records available. So I would have tried, for example, to...
I'm going to object to what you would have done.
No, overruled.
I would have tried to conduct a number of collateral interviews. I would have tried to go out and get some of the records myself if they'd not been available and provided to me. Usually I have to work a lot harder to get 10% of the records that I had in this case.
And you were provided with her complete psychiatric history from September through present day, correct?
I was.
Now, you were asked about being retained by our office and speaking to the prosecutors in the case. Did anyone from my office or myself or Ms. Buckingham ever tell you what your decision or what your evaluations to say in this case?
No.
And did we ever put any pressure on you in any way, shape, or form to come out on what defense counsel calls our side?
No.
And he also asked you about your interview itself with the defendant. At any point in time, was your conversation with Ms. Clancy hostile or aggressive or rude in any way?
No.
Did she ever ask you to stop and say she couldn't do it any longer?
She did not.
In fact, she declined a break at one point in time, correct?
Oh my
the
God,
days,
they
yes, that was
really want to
before that.
emphasize the fact
Prior
that
to
she was
going
like,
into
I don't need a
records in
break.
this case, did you form an opinion as to what her criminal responsibility was?
Has no one ever had to have a fucking examination that you just wanted it to be over? So you're like, no, I'm good. How much more we got? Just a few more questions. Let's go. Like, come on.
No. In fact, I worked very hard to avoid forming any kind of opinion until very late in the process when I'd had the chance to go through all the records, do the 3 days of evaluation, do the collateral interviews, and get everything I could have, because that's the kind of thing that helps you handle what's been referred to as confirmation bias, which is starting
They're
out with
paid
a
for
good
all the
idea or
hours
a
they read
conclusion,
the
and then
documents, everything.
being drawn to the things that support that and avoiding the things that don't.
Would an example of confirmation bias be giving a press conference in which you diagnose a patient before you even do an evaluation of that patient? And then finding that same diagnosis that you initially made?
Well, an example
This
of
is what they're
that
trying to
would be
accuse
saying before you ever met with somebody
Reddington's,
that I have a
doctors of.
diagnosis, and then meeting with them, and then possibly resulting in your providing that diagnosis. So it could
Ethics
well
and
be
integrity.
an influence of associated with confirmation
Miriam.
bias.
Now, you were asked about the defendant telling you that she didn't like to leave the children and how that was
You would
how that
think.
impacted your evaluation of the defendant. And I think you were cut off on your answer. So if you could just tell us why
I think you got cut
what
off.
you saw
Could
in
you
terms
just
of, or
give
heard from
me
the defendant
more
in terms of
stuff
her not wanting to leave her
that I
children and how
want?
that impacted or influenced your evaluation?
That was an important consideration.
Objection. It's not responsive.
No, I'll go ahead.
Oh my God.
That was an important consideration because one of the things
Look at
that would go
me.
through
I
your
look
mind if you
learned.
decided to take your own life.
I'm the
would be something
prosecutor.
very important
Like,
to
oh my
you, like your
God.
children.
The posing that
And-
this woman does.
Over a number of years and in a number of different
Sorry?
This is way outside the scope of cross-examination.
No, I would allow this. Go ahead.
Proceed.
over a
Proceed.
number of years and in a number of different contexts, she didn't like to leave the kids. So the question might be, if
Very
you
true.
were possibly inclined to think about taking your own life, what would happen with the kids? And would they suffer without you? And could other people take care of them? And that turned out to be something that I thought was consistent with not wanting to leave your kids and not wanting them to suffer and so on. It all went together in how
See,
she
he
thought
thought
about her own kids.
it's actually,
felt
this
about
is
her own
the
kids.
problem. Guys,
You were
this
also
is the
asked by
problem
defense
with
counsel in
mental health.
cross-examination about the defendant's
It does come down to beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Okay. And in this case, sanity or insanity, depression, no depression, postpartum, no postpartum is all up to whoever does the examination, which is why Reddington can present an expert that says absolutely postpartum, and then the prosecutor can present their expert who's like, absolutely not, postpartum's only 4 weeks, right? This is what's wrong with mental health, okay? That nobody can agree on the symptoms, on the time frame, on the causation. It is all guesswork. It is all like, let's see, let's just throw some spaghetti at the wall and see if it's, al dente or not. It is nuts, okay? It is absolutely nuts that we don't have adequate medical testing, okay? In the year of our lords and ladies, 2026, that we don't have blood tests, scans, enough knowledge of the brain, etc., to be like, oh, well, according to your DNA and your tests and the symptoms you're experiencing, we can see XYZ. And this medication, if you want to take it, will handle most of those things. Like, why do we not have that? Why is that not available? Right? For most other things, you can go see a doctor, okay, and say, I'm experiencing sinus pressure. I got green gook coming out of my nose. I'm coughing up green gook. Okay, you have a respiratory infection. We're going to give you Augmentin. Augmentin works best for respiratory infections. Exactly, Melissa. Exactly. This is women's health across the board. We don't have an adequate way to measure our hormones. Even if you go in and you say, oh, am I in perimenopause? Am I in menopause? If you get that blood test at the wrong time in the month, it's going to show you ovulating like a mofo. Why? Because you're in the luteal phase. Your baby maker is like, let's make a baby, right? Okay. And then the doctor goes, well, you're fine. You're still ovulating on a regular cycle, right? No, it's insane. It's totally nuts. Yeah, solutions aren't profitable, period. Period. Right? Like, why do we have solar that you can store in a salt battery that is way more cost efficient and stores it better that we could put on everybody's house? We wouldn't need the fucking power grid. We're not going to do that because then the power companies are going to be out of business. Oh no. The problem is capitalism. The capitalistic bullshit that we live in is allowing for all of these things to continue because somebody has to make money. Why could, Pfizer or whoever it was change the price of an insulin pen to $800? Because they could. Okay? That's how insane this stuff is. It's just nuts. Totally nuts. Anyway.
Concerns about taking Zoloft while breastfeeding.
Yes.
Do you recall in your interview with the defendant when she mentioned that as a result of her practice in labor and delivery as a nurse, she was aware that millions of pregnant women and postpartum women took Zoloft with no problem?
I do not recall that, no.
No.
But that would be in your interview if it happened.
Yes.
Now, defense counsel asked you about your
Oh,
answer.
it wasn't in
from,
the interview?
Direct testimony about all
I
of
love
the-
how the prosecutor tries to get him to testify something that wasn't even in the interview because otherwise she would have brought it up on page 43 of your interview. Mm-hmm. Nice try, Bo and Co.
prescriptions and the different doctors being confusing. But being confusing was your description of of seeing all that information, not the defendant's description, correct?
Yes, that's right.
And could you explain that and how
Exactly,
it was
Meredith.
confusing in what way?
She had a number of diagnoses that people assigned to her, a number of symptoms. And one of the things
Thank
that
you,
she,
Miriam.
she experienced is that people were saying that she had something pretty minor, adjustment disorder with anxiety or adjustment disorder with mild depression or things like that, all the way up to things that were really major and really severe, postpartum psychosis, that sort of thing. And there were a number of things in between. So she was not sure what they were saying, and she was not sure whether they were prescribing the right medication for her, and even if it was something that she experienced, whether she was reacting badly to that medication. So so that's basically my understanding, that there were a lot of things that people said, mental health care providers. Some of them were pretty minor as far as what was wrong with her, and some of them were not minor.
And in terms of the defendant being unsure about the effects the medication was having on her, she expressed a specific concern about Seroquel, correct?
Yes.
And what was her concern about Seroquel?
It was giving her big problems with sleeping, and she thought that part of the numbness and not being able to feel and that sort of thing was associated with that medication as well. So she thought it was really affecting her badly.
And after she went to McLean Hospital, she was no longer on any of those medications that she had been on from September through December, correct?
Correct.
And she had been weaned off the Seroquel in particular, correct?
Yes.
And so after leaving McLean Hospital, the two medications she was on upon discharge was trazodone and Valium, correct?
Yes.
Now, you were asked about thought broadcasting and the defendant thinking that people could hear her thoughts. And you said that there was some difference there between thought broadcasting and what the defendant explained to you was happening. Could you tell us what she said to you in your interview and how that impacted your evaluation?
Yes, she said that they were thoughts. They were unwelcome and intrusive thoughts, but they were thoughts, just like many people would have.
The
And if they
entire
were
state of
particularly
Oregon,
insistent,
which is
or
why
they were
we all
particularly
take vitamin
vivid
D.
thoughts, then you might think that, oh, people can pick this up from what I'm experiencing. But that is not a psychotic symptom, having vivid thoughts. On the other hand, if you hear a voice, like somebody might hear my voice, it's an external sort of a thing, then that is very likely a psychotic symptom. And so I tried to ask her to describe the difference between the two and specify whether it was an external voice, which would have been an hallucination, or an internal thought, which would have been an unwelcome, intrusive thought. And she said, except for on January 24th, what she was experiencing were thoughts rather than hallucinations.
So internal thoughts versus external auditory hallucinations, is that right?
Yes.
Now, defense counsel asked you if before all of these medications and before all the treatment, if Lindsay Clancy was a happy woman. But didn't she go to Dr. Tufts in the first place because she was struggling?
She was anxious about returning to
All
work.
the gesticulating.
She had been having a very good time with her family that summer, but as the fall approached and Patrick's paternity leave expired and she was thinking about returning to work and scheduled to return to work, that made her anxious.
And so it's not as if Dr. Tufts went to her home randomly and handed her a prescription. She actually went to Dr. Tufts with some mental health concerns, and Dr. Tufts treated her, correct?
Yes.
Oh, let's check that off. She sought mental health help.
From your
Lock
review of the
her up.
records and from everything that you've learned in this case, including your interviews with her, is it accurate that Ms. Clancy never told any of her providers, any of her medical providers, or any of the hospitals that she visited that she had thoughts of harming her children?
That is my recollection, that she did not share that information with any mental health providers.
And in your review of the records for Dr. Tufts, nurse practitioner Delata, mental health workers Letitia Dukes, and also at McLean Hospital, isn't it true, isn't it accurate, that in all of those records, it indicates that the defendant denied suicidal ideation, denied homicidal ideation, denied auditory hallucinations, denied visual hallucinations, except for saying that she felt suicidal in December?
Yes, that is accurate.
And isn't it accurate that throughout those records, they all document, all those providers document that there are no signs or symptoms of psychosis that are either observable or that she reported?
Yes, that is accurate.
Now, you were asked about her visit to women and infants in Rhode Island.
Hey, cuddly
the defense
foof.
counsel asked you if they refused to help her and told her to leave. But they did offer to help her, didn't they? They offered her 3 different programs. Isn't that correct?
Yes, they referred her elsewhere to programs that they thought were more appropriate for what was wrong with her.
And reading from page 9 of Exhibit 220 in the records, it states, currently she is complaining of insomnia and mental numbness, which she attributes to taking Seroquel. She desires to down titrate the Seroquel and work on getting better sleep. Because her symptoms occurred late in postpartum period and are not clearly related to perinatal factors, the patient was advised that the WIH-DHP, which would be the Women and Infants Hospital postpartum program, is not a suitable treatment facility for her. This was discussed with both patient and husband, and both are in agreement with this.
There's a huge
Patient's husband-
stigma attached to experiencing any of the side effects of these medicines. And that, I said this to my therapist, but I've said it before in the stream and I'll say it again. That's why this case is so important. I'm going to replay the TikTok that I played in the last video because there are thousands of women right now that are coming forward to talk about their postpartum experiences and what that means and what that meant in ways that are important, because this discussion needs to be had and needs to be heard out loud, because we have never discussed this in this way. And I'm going to replay this here now.
Hey, so the reason that I know that the system failed Lindsay Clancy is because when I gave birth to my son, the first day that he was born, I told my OBGYN, I don't like him and I want to leave him here at the hospital. And she looked at me and said, oh, that's normal, and let me go home. And then 4 days later, I went back to the hospital and said, hi, I think I want to myself because something's wrong. And they said, sorry, you have to wait until you're 2 weeks postpartum before we can put you on medication. And they let me go home. And then I struggled for 6 months in silence with ideation because my OBGYN essentially told me that first day when I was struggling that they did not believe me and they would not take care of me. So I know for a fact that that system failed her because it failed me and millions of other women too.
Exactly. So that's why this case is important. No matter what you think about Lindsay Clancy or anything else, the fact of the matter is that women's health care, especially in this country, is a fucking abomination. And we have to change that. And we have to start having honest conversations, not only about childbirth, about our periods, about our bodies, about our emotions, about our hormones. And we need research, massive amounts of research into these things so that women, girls and women, from the moment they start their period, know what to expect, know what's really going to happen, and the things to watch out for in case it's bad, so that you don't spend 40 years, having horrific periods that are actually signs of endometriosis, of fibroids, of ovarian cysts, because we think everything is normal. We think the amount of pain that we go through every month, normal. So we don't complain about it. We don't say anything about it. Work doesn't give a fuck. No one respects what women go through. And to be honest, ladies, let's be fucking honest. We, women, are the most guilty of shaming other women about their pain, because that's how we were taught. We're all taught to suck it up, buttercup. Pull up your fucking boots. Oh, you're having a bad period. Well, aren't you special? Right? Like, we don't respect, we don't have empathy, because we are told from the moment we start puberty, guess what? This is your life now, sugar tits. Deal with it. That's wrong. We have to change the whole fucking landscape, the whole conversation, for our daughters, for our granddaughters, and for ourselves. We need to tell these young women, it's okay. You're in pain? Rest. Your body hurts? Okay, tell me about it. Let's do the things to make that better. Let's acknowledge the pain. Let's be real with it. Don't shove it down. Don't pretend you can go play a softball fucking tournament like that. Don't pretend that you're just going to go to work and smile. No, we need to really talk about this and what we put women through on a daily fucking basis, because it is disgusting. Okay? Rabbit Flea, this is true. We are all taught to hide our thoughts. Everybody has random, crazy thoughts. Okay? We don't say them on the outside on purpose, because societally it's not accepted. Okay? And it could just be a passing thought. Shoo, you know. Okay, but we gotta, I agree. We would all understand ourselves better, probably. Yeah, your brain had neurovascular damage shown on an MRI. Doctor asked when I had my stroke. You're like, what? Was put on lamotragine as a profile. Wow. So you have stroke damage in your brain and didn't even know that it had happened. That's crazy. Oh, I'm glad you have a good doctor. I'm glad you have a good doctor. Okay. Here we go.
Feel strongly that patient has been over-medicated and misdiagnosed. Patient
Same.
was offered several options for her, including inpatient treatment for medication management, a partial hospitalization program focused on general mental health, or continued outpatient management. Patient plans to follow up with her outpatient provider for guidance, correct?
Yes.
And so it was Patrick who said that she was over-medicated, correct?
Well, he was one of the two of them who said that. She also thought that she was over-medicated.
But the people at Women and Infants Hospital, the ones who are doing the evaluation, don't say in their diagnosis that she was over-medicated. They list adverse drug effects, correct?
They listed rule out adverse drug effects.
And what does it mean when they write in a diagnosis, rule out adverse drug effects?
It means it's possible, but it has yet to be confirmed.
And there's nowhere in the diagnosis any doctor or mental health professional saying that she was, in fact, over-medicated, correct? In the diagnosis portion here?
Oh, of women and infants?
Yes, I'm sorry, women and infants.
Yes, I did not see anything like that.
And is there a difference between being over-medicated and having adverse drug effects?
Well, I think you're asking a medical question right now, and I'm a psychologist, not a medical
Oh, I'm
professional,
not
so
a
I
medical
can't answer that.
doctor.
Okay. Now, in the diagnosis, you stated earlier that there was general anxiety disorder, correct?
Among the diagnoses, yes.
And depression unspecified, rule out due to adverse drug effects, correct?
Yes.
So that means depression, but you have to look further into it to rule out or rule in whether or not the medication is having an effect.
Yes.
So that's not sure. That's not saying she's depressed because of the medication, correct?
They was just saying it's possible. Need to look into it.
And in this, what
Look
I just
at
read
this
to you,
smug
the defendant was telling
fucking
them that she
asshole up
thought it was
here.
hysterical and she wanted to titrate down, meaning slowly go off of the medication, correct?
Yes.
And then she went to Dr. Tufts after this and to Nurse Practitioner Gelada, and Nurse Practitioner Gelada actually gave her a prescription to titrate down, correct?
Yes.
Exactly what the defendant was looking for, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
You were asked by defense counsel about the defendant getting worse and worse and worse, but was that
Holy
between September
cow,
and December,
Allison.
or was that in January?
It didn't begin until October when she began taking the medication. And she seemed to get worse and worse into November and December. And then following her discharge from McLean on January 5th, she seemed to be somewhat improved in different ways, including her sleep was better and her mood was slightly better and things like that. So if I had to describe it, it was worse from October into November into December, and then somewhat better and somewhat improving in January.
And you were asked by defense counsel about, you had mentioned cognitive behavioral therapy might be something that someone would look into, and he asked you if that was on the patient to do that, correct?
Yes, I think that's right.
Were you aware that there are searches on the defendant's cell phone where she looked up cognitive behavioral therapy or CBT therapy?
Yes.
Probably,
So she was
Kathy.
actively engaging in her treatment and looking up that type of therapy, correct?
That was one of a number of things that she was searching for information on and looking for, yes.
And despite searching for information on it and looking for, she never made an appointment, to your knowledge, for that type of therapy.
To my knowledge, she did not.
You were asked about peritraumatic disassociation, about how a person feels outside of their body watching what they're doing. Did I describe that accurately?
Yes.
And in that scenario where someone might be experiencing that during a traumatic event, does that mean they're not in control of what they're doing?
No, it doesn't mean that. It means it kind of influences their perception and their memory and so on, but it doesn't completely remove their self-control.
You were asked about psychosis and whether someone in psychosis would automatically act on a command hallucination, and you said not be responsible, and you said it depends. Is that correct?
Yes.
Why does it depend?
See, we need more
Because
education
symptoms of
and we need more
psychosis,
research.
including command hallucinations, don't necessarily take away your knowledge, your understanding, or your self-control. They can in some instances, but in other instances,
Wow.
they don't. And one of the things that people do to try to retain more control is things like distracting themselves, praying, doing other things that that basically make a difference in terms of supporting and boosting their self-control. And so there's no automatic connection between any mental disorder, including psychotic mental disorders, and the legal standard for knowing that something is wrong or conforming one's conduct to the requirements of the law. That's why we go through all this in such detail.
Well, next question.
Doctor, can someone who is experiencing psychosis with a command hallucination,
Exactly.
can that person
Good
make a difference
question,
between right
Rabbit Flea.
Yes.
It's outside, way outside the scope of question.
Next question.
and can someone who is experiencing psychosis conform their behavior to the law?
Same objection.
No, overruled.
In some cases, they can, yes.
And is that what you were talking about just a few moments ago, when someone can be in a state of psychosis, hearing a command telling them to do something, and they try to avoid doing what they're told to do?
Yes.
And you gave some examples, but someone trying to distract themselves with music or something like that, correct?
Yes.
I'm going to stop objecting, but I have a standing objection to the leading, Judge. This is my objection.
All right. It's redirect. I'll allow Commonwealth to use a leading question to direct the witness to a certain area.
It's completely leading the witness. It's
Just
like
non-leading
total
questions at that
bullshit.
point.
Look at him sitting here like, yeah, whatever you want, sweetie.
Couple of things. Sir, first of all, counsel was asking you a question about the inconsistent statement or what have you. You indicated, sir, if I stand corrected, you administered a test, the MMPI to her, right?
Yes, I did.
And one of the sub categories.
Beyond the scope.
No, she asked about inconsistent statements.
No, yeah, overruled.
Is the K scale or the lie scale, right? Yes or no? Just please, yes or no?
The MMPI does have a K scale.
Okay.
And it
And
does
that
have an
measures-
L scale.
That measures if a person, to you, as the administrating psychologist, is bluntly lying, right?
No.
Okay. Does it also, in your testing, determine if the person is exaggerating their symptoms?
Yes, it's much
Okay, the answer
closer
is
to
yes.
that.
The answer is yes, thank you. And when you administered the test to Lindsay, close to 3 years later, you indicated that it was the fact that it was late that you administered the test. It was testing her at the time it was administered, right?
That's right.
And one of the things that, the results, by the way, if I understand, looking at your transcript of testimony, is regardless of all of your explanations about MMPI and the other psychological testing, she was not elevated on anything except a suicide scale, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So she wasn't, according to the testing you administered when you saw her with Mac, exaggerating, lying, malingering, anything like that, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay.
And one of the things that you did in your report, sir, is regarding the lying or the malingering, is you made reference to, I believe, Dr. Resnick, Philip Resnick. You know him, right?
I do.
He's a significant authority in the field of filicide. Is that right?
He is.
And Dr. Resnick indicated, sir, that his opinion as to the lack of malingering, as well as yours. Right?
Yes, he did.
Okay. And you made reference to one of Dr. Resnick's articles, actually, in your report.
This is a
Some of
redirect,
his
so we're
research on
hopefully
The answer
towards
is
the
yes.
end. This
We can make
guy
this easy. The
is
answer is yes.
got shredded by
Did you
Reddington
look
earlier.
at Insight, Dr. Philip Resnick's research report?
his research. Yes, I
Okay.
did.
And are you aware, sir, that what you cited is outdated? Are you familiar with the 2012 article by Dr. McCarthy Jones collaborating with Dr. Resnick talking about the largest study of hallucinations ever conducted in the world?
I'm aware that as a researcher, you build on some of the
No,
things.
not what us researchers do. Are you aware of that report?
No.
Okay. Are you aware, sir, that that study was after the report?
Do you see what he does? When Reddington stops him from doing a pontificating answer, when it should just be a yes or no, he cuts him off. Reddington cuts him off and just says, "Are you aware?" You know, like rephrases the question, so it's either a yes or a no, right? This guy, to try and take back control of the rhythm of the questioning, will do a long pause and then give his answer, because what he believes is that when you are being questioned, right, is that you should be in control. You are in control. And that's how you maintain composure and everything else. So that whatever you believe, you're not going to be swayed from or thrown off of. But he's getting more and more frustrated because Reddington keeps like going, nope, that's not what I want to talk about. I'm clearly asking you this.
That you cited in your report, and it involved 191 individuals who were asked almost 400 questions about auditory hallucinations. You aware of that?
No.
And are you aware, sir, that in fact it was determined that auditory hallucinations can come from within and it can come from without in that report? You're not aware of that, right?
No.
No?
Boy, really wanted to really think
Well, the
about
other
that
thing,
one.
There's been a lot of talk about how you had to wait a while. You had to get court orders to visit with Lindsay to conduct your investigation, right?
Yes.
Okay. You're not suggesting or trying to leave with this jury that
Exactly.
it was me or my office that interfered or impeded. I think the question was that you were unable to see her. I had nothing to do with that, right?
Objection. Ms. Cyber?
No.
Yeah, come on.
Uh-oh. Guess what that means? Sidebar. What are we going to bring up, kids? You know what we're bringing up now. It's our sidebar merch. That's right. During the sidebar, you can get your own sidebar merch. Time to pimp out the merch. But I can fast forward. So we're going to do that. And here.
You know the drill. All right. Members of the jury, we're going to take the afternoon recess at this point. We'll come back, call their last witness. So during lunch, you know the drill. Don't talk about it. Don't read about it. Don't listen to it. Put it out of your head. We'll have you back here at 2 o'clock. Okay, thank you.
All right.
Okay, so this stream has ended. So I need to find a new stream. They are at lunch. Sidebar. So let's go to
And doctor, what is the significance? I'm sorry, were you not finished?
You done with it? Hold on. You
Yes.
done with that answer? All right. Next question.
And so, doctor, what is the significance to you, if anything, of
they started late. Hang on one second. Let's find a new stream here. That's Minneapolis. Let's just go to the AP here.
This court is now in session. Please be seated.
Oh no. That's oh no, that's yesterday's. Come on now. Is the AP not live with this? Come on. Good God, YouTube. Work with me. I know. Dolly Parton is dead. This is the people outside saying goodbye to Dolly. As they should. As they should. Let's.
Yes.
We're going to pause here because the prosecution, of course, has one more witness. Okay, here's the lunch break, and we're back in session. Here we go.
all right.
Counsel, you all set for the jury?
Yes.
Yes. Counsel? All right.
Jury's coming in. We're going to speed this up a little bit. Boom, boom. And away we go. They got a lot of bailiffs today. There's her mom. There's her dad. There's one of the doctors. We've got her 2 nurses that are assigned to her. Other friends. Absolutely, Dolly was a light.
Court, all right. Jurors entering.
Hang on, I can't hear you. One second.
This court's now in session. Be seated.
For the record, we return back to the jury trial in the matter of Commonwealth versus Lindsay Clancy. All parties are present, including the defendant and including the 18 jurors.
All right. Commonwealth?
Thank you, Your Honor. The Commonwealth calls Dr. Gregory Satoff.
She is disgusting. She like tripled down on that shit. And she's Patrick's neighbor currently.
Good afternoon, sir. We start right here. Would you like to clerk, please?
Good afternoon. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony and the evidence you shall give to the court and the jury, the matter now pending between the Commonwealth and the defendant, the shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Thank you.
Thank you. You may have a seat.
All right. Good afternoon, Doctor. Hi. Attorney Sprague?
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon. Can you please state and spell your name for the record?
Yes, first name is Gregory. Gregory, last name Saathoff, Saathoff.
And can you
Spell it.
describe for us your educational background?
Yes, I received my undergraduate degree at the University of Notre Dame, and then my medical degree, my MD, at the University of Missouri, and then my residency in psychiatry at the University of Virginia.
And can you describe for us your occupation?
Yes, I'm a professor of emergency medicine and public health sciences at the University of Virginia. I also see patients in the Virginia Department of Corrections, where I also teach students. And I also serve as the senior psychiatrist for the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit in Quantico.
And how long have you been the senior psychiatrist for the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit, or BAU?
Since 1996.
And are there other psychiatrists who contract with the FBI
This guy is
for that
frightening.
department?
Well, certainly for the FBI writ large, there are psychiatrists who work with them. But as for the behavioral analysis unit at Quantico, we sometimes have Walter Reed fellows who are psychiatrists. But other than that, I am the psychiatrist for the behavioral analysis unit.
And what does that entail?
It entails working with the behavioral analysis units on crimes and concerns, whether it is with children. I'm occasionally asked to consult with the behavioral analysis unit relating to children, crimes against children, also crimes against adults, and also national security issues, and in particular, issues relating to threat assessment.
And are you, or do you consider yourself a forensic psychologist?
Psychiatrist, yes.
Sorry, I apologize.
Oh,
and
yeah.
what is the role of a forensic
He's
psychiatrist?
a doctor.
Well, a forensic psychiatrist examines issues with mental illness, and it's really the interface of mental illness and the law. Sometimes that can involve criminality. Most often, forensic psychiatrists are engaged in assessing mental status at the time of the offense or competency. But also forensic psychiatrists can consult institutions or also treat patients within facilities such as jails and prisons.
So that work that you do as a forensic psychiatrist, is that in addition to working with the behavioral analysis unit at the FBI and working at UVA and teaching and your work in the Bureau of Prisons?
Yes.
And in terms of your work as a forensic psychiatrist, have you done evaluations and testified on behalf of both prosecution and defense as a forensic psychiatrist?
Yes.
Approximately how many times have you testified in courts as a forensic psychiatrist?
Too many
Maybe
to count.
40 to 45 times, something like that.
And are you board certified in forensic psychiatry?
No.
And why not?
Well, when I finished my residency, I was interested in public psychiatry. And so I also was in the military. And so military psychiatry and public psychiatry in a teaching hospital was very important to me. As time went on, I was consulted by the FBI. They wanted to meet with me based upon a paper that I had published. And by the time I was more heavily involved in forensic psychiatry and particular assessment of individuals, by that point, the way to be board certified within forensic psychiatry would require a one-year fellowship. And at that point in my life, I just did not have the time to be able to devote to a one-year fellowship in addition to the other things that I was doing.
So instead of the one-year fellowship, did you have more on-the-job training as a forensic psychiatrist?
Yes.
And as a forensic psychiatrist, have you evaluated subjects for things like competency and criminal responsibility?
Yes, I have. And let me just say also, in addition to on-the-job experience, it's important to get teaching and training. And so I've taken advantage of courses within the Institute for Law, Psychiatry, and Public Policy at the University of Virginia and other opportunities as well in terms of even taking a board review course that was very helpful and quite comprehensive.
So you've had other training other than the fellowship in order to be a forensic psychiatrist?
Yes.
And can you talk a little bit about the work that you've done with inmates?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Can you talk a little bit about the work that you've done for the Bureau of Prisons with inmates?
Yes. Well, specifically, most of my work has been with the Virginia Department of Corrections rather than the Bureau of Prisons. And since
the state
1992, I guess, maybe 34 years, I have assessed and treated patients within the prison system, both men and women at men and women's facilities. And in that time, I have brought medical students and residents and fellows and taught them. So over the course of my career thus far, I brought more than 2,500 medical students and residents into the prison system to learn about psychiatry and significant mental illness.
And in the course of your evaluating and treating female inmates, did you have the opportunity to evaluate and treat female inmates who had killed their children?
Yes.
And how often was that would occur, that you would treat that type of patient?
Well, in consulting to a maximum security women's prison, I would say 5 to 7 women who had killed their children.
And in terms of your interactions with them, you said that you evaluated them. Did that involve diagnosing them?
Correct.
And then what did the treatment involve?
Treatment involved working with a team within the system. Prisons have psychologists and social workers and those who are responsible for working with patient inmates. Medication treatment is very important, but also there are important therapeutic aspects. For a number of years, I ran a group in prison. I felt that was important, and my students felt that was important as well.
And in terms of the group you ran, what type of group was that?
It was a therapy group in which individuals were brought together, all who were diagnosed with a significant mental illness, and being able to speak about their experience and also how to deal with issues or how they dealt with issues over and above the medications that they were receiving.
And in your experience in the Department of Correction at the Bureau of Prisons, treating these patients, and also in your experience working at the FBI, did you encounter individuals who suffered from psychosis?
Yes, very much so.
And do you know, could you estimate how many patients you have treated who suffered from psychosis?
I'm going to object at this point.
No, overall.
Thousands. I spent 15 years running an inpatient admissions unit in a teaching state hospital. And so,
Sure.
Sidebar. You know what that means, kids. You got to go get a mug. Go get your sidebar mug. We're going to fast forward through the sidebar. No, there we go.
Excuse me. Doctor, you were about to describe a hospital that you had previously worked at. Is that correct?
yes,
And where was that and what type of hospital?
it was a state hospital in Virginia, near Charlottesville, Virginia, where the University of Virginia is. It was a teaching hospital with medical students and residents, and was a facility that dealt with some of the most severely mentally ill individuals who would have been committed to the hospital.
And how long were you at that hospital in that role?
15 years.
And during that time frame, is that when you saw the thousands of patients that you treated with psychosis?
I saw them there, yes, but also within the prison system.
Yeah, Marla.
And of course, during training, during my residency.
Have you ever written any articles about postpartum psychosis?
Yes.
And when was that?
Oh, somebody who's actually
We
written
published an
something
article
about this.
in 1987 relating to 2 cases of postpartum psychosis that I actually saw when I was an intern. One was my patient, and one was one that I consulted on.
And that article that you wrote, was that entitled Postpartum Psychosis Induced by
Could
Bromocriptine?
be, or maybe he's
Yes.
Spock's
What was
cousin.
bromocriptine?
So bromocriptine at that time was a medication that was used to inhibit or to stop lactation. Some women would, after birth, make a decision for whatever reason that they were not able to breastfeed. And so in those days, this medication, bromocriptine, was used to inhibit lactation.
Sir, please take every available seat. A woman would decide that for some reason she wasn't able to breastfeed. Oh, you mean like going to full-time fucking jobs back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and the early aughts where there was no breastfeeding accommodations, where there was no pump room, where there was none of that. So the woman just decided that she couldn't breastfeed. Fuck you. God damn it.
And in your treatment of one patient and what you learned of the second patient, did you come to a conclusion that bromocriptine was having some effect of inducing postpartum psychosis?
Yes.
And is that what you wrote the article about?
Yes.
And eventually, after you wrote this article, were there other studies that cited to your article?
Yes. And let me just emphasize, I was one of 5 authors of that article.
And eventually, was bromocriptine, did people stop using that to stop lactation in women?
Yes, the FDA took it off the market, I believe, in 1994 or 1995, not just for the reason of postpartum psychosis, but also for other problems, cardiac problems and the rest that bromocriptine sometimes caused in people.
And to your knowledge, was your article with the other co-authors the first article that brought to scientific attention this issue with bromocriptine and postpartum psychosis?
I'm sorry, can you ask that question again?
Sure. To your knowledge, was this article that you wrote with others the first article that brought to scientific attention the possible link between bromocriptine and postpartum psychosis?
That's my understanding. There were a few letters to journals commenting about bromocriptine and a connection, but I think the first article that was written was ours that we wrote about the two women who suffered postpartum psychosis.
Now, you've mentioned your experience in diagnosing and treating psychosis. What is psychosis?
Well, psychosis is, it can take a number of forms. I think we most often think about people who are psychotic as having hallucinations. And so we call those perceptual disturbances. That is oftentimes auditory hallucinations, so people hearing voices or sounds. But they also can be other types of hallucinations as well, not as common in psychosis, such as visual hallucinations, or even what we call tactile hallucinations, where the sense of touch is affected, or olfactory hallucinations. Most commonly, it is auditory hallucinations, though, if we're talking about those perceptual disturbances. Now, there are other areas that psychosis can show itself. Delusions are fixed false beliefs. They can be bizarre or non-bizarre. And sometimes people who have auditory hallucinations also have delusions. Sometimes you can have psychosis or someone can be psychotic with just a delusion and no perceptual disturbance, no type of hallucination. And the third area is with regard to thought and how people communicate. So in that part of psychosis, when it demonstrates itself, is that people have a great difficulty communicating with even speech disorganization. They may engage in what we call neologisms or making up words that have a specific meaning for them, but no one else. And the way that thought is
about me.
translated either in writing or in speech, oftentimes people who are psychotic and also have a difficult time with stringing their words together. So what we would call looseness of associations. So really, there are three arenas that psychosis can show itself, maybe in all three, the perceptual disturbances, the delusions.
That can also happen during menopause. Thank you very much.
Thought and related to thought and communication. But it's also possible to be psychotic and have just one of those three elements.
And is psychosis its own mental illness or a symptom of mental illness?
Psychosis is a symptom.
And why is it a symptom of mental illness and not its own defined mental illness?
Well, because there are many different possible causes of psychosis. Someone who has a serious medical problem, for example, can actually become psychotic.
Like what?
A brain tumor is one example in which those symptoms of psychosis show themselves. But there are other ways that people can experience psychosis. Some can be secondary to, say, drug abuse. There's certain drugs like cocaine or amphetamines or bath salts that can cause people to have the kind of perceptual disturbances or delusions or problems with communicating, that I talked about. So really,
right. So
I think it's just important to know that that it is not a cause. It represents a significant finding or presentation. Schizophrenia is one diagnosis where we will see psychosis in a number of forms, but also someone who has a serious mood disorder or schizoaffective disorder or a brief psychosis. So there are many different roads that can lead to psychosis. And so it's important to find out what's originating, because that's how we make the best decisions about how to treat any psychotic symptoms that we're seeing.
And doctor, the signs and symptoms of psychosis that are present, is that dependent on the underlying cause, the mental illness or whatever is causing the psychosis?
What?
Yes. When you say dependent,
what?
It just is clearly something that is a result of or a manifestation of the illness. For example, there are many different things that can cause a fever, right? And so while a fever is a symptom, it's a presentation that's very significant and can be very significant. What we need to do in medicine and psychiatry is find out, well, what is the cause? Because that is what's going to lead to the most appropriate treatment.
So, for example, an analogy would be a bacterial infection can cause a fever. Bipolar disorder can cause psychosis.
Correct.
Now, you mentioned earlier serious mental illness. What is considered to be a serious mental illness?
Well, serious mental illnesses affect a small portion of the population, a smaller portion, maybe 4%. So people who have schizophrenia have a serious mental illness. People who have bipolar 1, which is manic depressive illness, that is a serious mental illness. Schizoaffective disorder is also a serious mental illness. So while many people can have symptoms of mental illness and can benefit from treatment, either psychotherapy or medication or some kind of combination, there are some that are just really, really profound. And that's a much smaller percentage.
They're a lost cause.
And so serious mental illness, is that sometimes shortened to SMI?
Yes.
Now, is there something called any mental illness, AMI?
Yes.
And what would be in that category of any mental illness?
So any mental illness would be certainly adjustment disorders or anxiety disorders, mild depression, depression without psychotic features, for example. PTSD, which can have significant symptoms, is also something that would go under the category of any mental illness.
Now, were you asked to do a forensic evaluation of Lindsay Clancy?
Yes.
And you were asked to do that by the Plymouth County District Attorney's Office, correct?
Correct.
And did you receive direct payment from the Plymouth County District Attorney's Office for your evaluation?
No.
How did that payment plan, how did that work
did
between
we
the DA's
pay you?
office and your services?
So I do my work in testimony and the like through the University of Virginia. So my department is the recipient of any funds that come from the work that I do. I get a salary from the university that is not dependent on the number of cases that I am involved with or whatever. So I don't receive payment myself.
The university got a
I see it
donation.
as part of my job as a professor.
And in terms of your work with the university, does the university have any impact or influence on what your evaluation is or what your conclusions are?
No, not at all.
For your review of Lindsay Clancy, what types of records and other materials did you review?
Well, they were extensive. They involved significant medical records, not just the psychiatric records, outpatient, inpatient, but also medical records. Certainly the hospital records from McLean, the hospital records from Tewksbury, but also emergency department visits at South Shore and Mass General Hospital. So a significant body of medical and mental health records, both inpatient and outpatient. But in addition, there was a substantial amount of grand jury materials that I reviewed, and videos. For example, videos not only of interviews of individuals, but also in January when the Clancy family went to the museum, where they went to the Cape Codder water park. Was able to review those kinds of videos as well. I also received the reports from both the government, but also the defense. And so those experts who were retained, I had an opportunity to review those. I mean, the list of materials is very significant. CVS records, for example, pharmacy records, and law enforcement records, for example, the police reports and things like that from that day, 24 January 2023, in which the event occurred.
And Doctor, is it typical for you to have such a breadth of records and information, both pre-killing and post-killing, when you do a forensic evaluation?
No, I wouldn't say that's typical. Certainly for any evaluation, it's important to try and obtain as much information as possible. But in this case, I think the amount of information was truly significant.
And you also interviewed the defendant, correct?
Yes, I did.
And how many times did you interview her and for how long?
I interviewed Ms. Clancy on 2 occasions. One was on the 29th of May of this year, and the other was the 4th of June. I believe on the 29th of May, I interviewed her for approximately six and a half hours. And then the second time in June 4th, it was about 5 hours.
And were those interviews in person or on Zoom?
They were by way of Zoom.
This is sped up.
And why were they by way of Zoom?
For personal reasons, I was unable to travel at that time. And so I requested the ability to have an interview by way of a Zoom video platform. And that was approved. And
did you find that doing the interviews by Zoom inhibited your ability to evaluate Ms. Clancy in any way?
Well, I think there are always limitations when one is not physically present, when one is seeing someone in a video setting. Sometimes it takes longer to be able to get information and establish rapport. Other limitations are just having an opportunity to see the environment, that the individual is in.
I think the meds definitely
I have done
caused
evaluations
and other things,
in the past.
I don't think she did this.
Using a Zoom format, there are certainly advantages to being in person.
Did you, in your interviews with Ms. Clancy, have any difficulties having her answer questions or establishing a rapport with her?
No, she was very pleasant, very responsive to questions that I asked on both occasions.
Were there any benefits to doing the interviews on Zoom?
Well, one benefit that one doesn't always have with an in-person evaluation is that a platform like this can also save the entire interview, and both video of the interviewer, myself, but also Ms. Clancy. So if someone wants to really understand that the interview and how it went, you not only have a transcript, but you have a video that really demonstrates the course of the interview, how it went, And that can be very helpful. That can be more helpful than if, as a clinician or as an assessor, I am writing notes. Because when you're writing notes, sometimes it's harder to be able to attend to the individual. So certainly, being able to have a transcript of the interview is helpful, and I think it makes the process more transparent as well, which I think is a positive.
As part of your evaluation in this case, did you also interview what's known as collaterals or other people who knew the defendant?
Yes, I did.
Who did you interview?
Well, I interviewed Patrick Clancy,
Of course.
also on a Zoom platform.
Of course.
And after you had reviewed all of the records that were provided to you and the criminal file and all the evidence that was provided to you and conducted these interviews both with Ms. Clancy and Patrick Clancy, were you able to conduct an analysis of all of that material in order to come to your eventual conclusions?
Yes.
And if we could just go through your analysis of this case, and if we could start with, I think what you called in your report, Ms. Clancy's characterization of the command auditory hallucinations.
Yes. So Ms. Clancy stated to me and some other evaluators that her hallucination, that of an external voice, something coming from outside of her head, occurred when she was standing at the refrigerator. She said that she was in the process of making her children their dinner when she received a call from Patrick Clancy, returned the call, and then as soon as she finished the call with Patrick Clancy, she said that is when she heard the voice. This is your last chance. You have to kill your kids and then kill yourself. And so that was what she told a number of us. There are also other accounts that she made to individuals that were quite a bit different. To Dr. Spinelli, for example, she said that the voice happened at 5:10 or 5:15 p.m. as soon as Patrick Clancy left on his errands. And that the voice, she described the voice to Dr. Spinelli as increasing in intensity, but saying, this is your last chance. You have to kill your kids before you kill yourself.
I do my therapy on
but
Zoom
also
as well.
that it was that her children would suffer if she did not do that. When I asked her about the voice that she heard, again, she said that it started really right after the telephone call at 5:34 with her husband, Patrick. And she said it was a man's voice. It was very clear. It was external. In other words, it came from outside of her head. That it was constant. So this phrase, this is your last chance. You have to kill your kids and then kill yourself, was something that was repeated over and over and over and over again during that period that she strangled her children. And then just as soon as it started, it stopped at when she had finished killing the children, strangling the children.
Doctor, was there anything about what she reported to you about the voice that was significant to you in your evaluation, and if so, why?
Awesome, JoJo.
Well, what was significant to me is that she had not spoken about hearing voices before that in any of the mental health professionals, the psychiatrists, the nurse practitioners, the physicians and staff in the emergency departments or at McLean. And so this was the first time that she reported that was documented, but also that she experienced an auditory hallucination, according to what she told me. So that was unusual. And then also what was very unusual was the fact that the voice stopped with the death or the strangling of her youngest son, Callan, and that she went upstairs and then proceeded to engage in behavior in an effort to kill herself, but that the voice had stopped as soon as she had strangled her last Callan, her youngest child.
I could stop you there for a moment and ask you, you said that it's unusual that this was the first time that she had heard this voice. Why is that unusual?
I agree. We need that worldwide.
Well, she had certainly suffered with symptoms of mental illness, depression and anxiety, most specifically. Anxiety that she had reported to Dr. Tufts in
That's crazy. I have Kaiser,
September.
and mine is totally covered.
And then certainly the symptoms that later on included suicidal ideation and also what she said were dark or intrusive thoughts to harm her children that she mentioned to her husband and her mother on, I think, 2 occasions.
And Doctor, you also mentioned that it was unusual that the voice stopped after Callan was killed. Why is that unusual?
Well, I'm compared to other patients that I've treated who have had command auditory hallucinations.
I'm going to object to that. You want the same objection as raised before?
Yeah.
Else, can I see it?
Oh, sidebar. You know what that means, kids. Here we go. We're back.
Doctor, based on your training and experience in dealing with diagnosing and treating people who have psychosis and what you've learned in all your training and schooling, is it typical for someone in psychosis to hear a voice only one time, never before, never after?
No.
And again, based on your training experience, is it typical for someone in psychosis to hear a voice that's constant rather than intermittent?
No, that is not typical.
And what does it mean, the difference between a constant voice and an intermittent voice?
Well, an intermittent voice would come and go.
This whole scenario, guys, I'm sorry to say, points more to external people being involved in these killings than any other piece of evidence. The fact that she never heard an external voice except for allegedly during this time period. And then it stopped immediately upon doing what it asked for. That is the most crucial piece of evidence that they did not investigate. There are cameras all over this house. There are nanny cams everywhere. They just took Patrick's word that the Wi-Fi wasn't working. Except on the CVS footage, you clearly see him checking his cameras. So the Wi-Fi was working. None of this was double checked. We just took it. The investigation into this incident is the worst I've ever seen in the history of police work, I think, honestly. Yeah, and he's a tech guy. He's a Microsoft guy.
It wouldn't necessarily just keep playing over and over again as if it were on a tape, which Ms. Clancy told me that it was a voice. It's the same thing in the same tone, repeated over and over and over until she had strangled Callan.
And is it typical, based on your training and experience, for someone to hear command hallucinations and then for them to stop abruptly?
No. Committing the act is not curative of the voice. I've not ever seen that.
And Doctor, based on your training experience, someone in psychosis hearing a voice without accompanying delusions, is that typical?
That would be pretty rare. It's absolutely not typical.
And in talking to Ms. Clancy, did you speak to her about the concern she had that if she had voiced thoughts of harming her children to providers, medical providers, that her children would have been taken away?
Yes.
And did you see that as a delusional thought?
No. Certainly with the requirements that healthcare professionals have to report any issues that could cause harm to children, for example, as required reporters, it's very rational for her to be concerned that by voicing her thoughts of harm could cause her children, certainly an assessment and a rapid assessment and a determination about how best to keep the children safe. So I didn't see that as irrational, but rather rational, just understanding the healthcare system.
And when reviewing the records and speaking to Ms. Clancy, did you see or notice any delusional statements or beliefs surrounding the hearing of that voice on the 24th?
No, I didn't.
Now, based on your training experience, is it typical for someone in psychosis to hear a voice and immediately act on it?
No.
And why is that?
I'd like to have a Dobie hearing at this point, Judge, on this. I'd like to test his qualifications. To this.
Same objection, same ruling.
So your opinion is it's not typical, correct?
Correct.
Now, you mentioned the defendant told you that when she received the call from her husband at 5:33 and called him back at 5:34, that she was getting dinner ready for her children, correct?
Yes.
And did she tell you what she was about to get out of the refrigerator?
Reddington is chomping.
Yes, she said she was at the refrigerator and that the refrigerator door was open and that she was getting chicken nuggets out of the refrigerator section for her children.
Now, in your collateral interview with Patrick Clancy,
Those would be in
did
the
you learn from
freezer.
him that when he left the residence, the children were already eating chicken nuggets on the couch?
Yes.
And did Patrick
Correct.
Clancy tell you that Dawson in particular
Correct.
was eating chicken nuggets and green beans out of a bowl on the couch?
Yes, that's what he told me.
And is it fair to say that there are crime scene photographs showing a bowl on the couch?
Yes.
And so is there any significance to you in the defendant telling you that when she got the phone call from Patrick, when he's at CVS,
Rika.
that she's making chicken nuggets versus Patrick and telling you that that had already happened and the crime scene photos showing you the bowl was already on the couch?
Well, it's inconsistent.
And are inconsistencies like that important in your evaluations in cases like this?
Yes.
And how so?
Well, looking at someone's mental status at the time
Could
of offense,
Patrick have been
it's
lying?
important to
We're not asking.
understand what was
Peachy
going
Bow
on
Lady is
in their
there.
mind at the time.
She's right there at the bottom
And
of the screen.
In this case,
Are you leaving?
the widely divergent reports from Lindsay Clancy versus her husband Patrick raise questions about what she is telling me and how things are happening. So
Nobody questions Patrick.
certainly
at all.
That's a cause for significant concern. One of them is not correct in their statement.
And in terms of what you testified about
There you
earlier
go.
about
One of them is not
the
correct.
defendant giving you one version of what the voice told her and giving Dr. Spinelli a different version of what the voice told her, is there any significance in your evaluation to that?
Yes.
And what is that?
Well, again, it's markedly inconsistent. Ms. Clancy was very clear with me about the time that the voice started and that it was constant for
because it was years
a period
later
of
and
time
she had
until the
therapy.
children were killed, and then it stopped. And according to Dr. Spinelli's report, Ms. Clancy stated
so
that
many
the voice
possibilities,
started
Liz.
much earlier, actually, when Patrick Clancy left. And so we're talking about a significant difference in time.
Celebrate sobriety here.
And those
at
two
Sham.
just they don't match. So
Prosecution.
it's hard to which version is the one that I should consider.
Now, further along in your analysis, you talk about Ms. Clancy's outward portrayals
please hit the
misleading
like,
her family
everyone.
and providers. What do you mean by that, and what did you see in the records and in your interview of her?
Yes.
No, it's for the one that had all of their points.
Well, in looking back at her history, for example, with Patrick, she dated Patrick when she was in nursing school, and that was at a time that she was experiencing fairly significant anxiety, according to her, such that she went to a psychiatrist and was treated for her anxiety with Prozac and Wellbutrin and also propranolol. And this was for a fairly significant period of time during their dating, approximately a year. And when I spoke with Mr. Clancy, and also in other testimony and collateral information, he was
100 million
completely
%
unaware that she was experiencing mental health symptoms at that time that they were dating, or that she was taking medication. And he said he did not learn that she had taken medication, mental health medication, Prozac, Wellbutrin. Those are both antidepressants, as well as propranolol, which helps with anxiety, particularly with the kind of presentations that she was doing. But he was unaware until during this time that she was having, great difficulty, November, December time period.
And that's of 2022?
Yes. But there are other aspects too where her portrayal misled others in terms of how she was doing.
Can you give us an example of that?
Yes. Well, in the numerous text messages, which really varied, there were times when she stated that she was doing very well. And for example, even in the days leading up to the 24th of January 2023, the photographs that she was sending on Instagram and the like really portrayed something very different than what she later stated was going on inside. With regard to providers, Ms. Clancy told me that during this period that she was having such difficulty, and that was really starting in October. She started taking medication in October. Ms. Clancy told me that she was having real difficulty with some symptoms and anxiety and the like. Her mother-in-law
Really having to think a lot here, Liz.
suggested to her that there was a doctor that she knew named Rose.
I don't know if it's against the doctor.
Was willing
There is a
to
civil
talk with
suit
her
already
just on an
filed.
informal basis. And so as I understand, this doctor made time for her to be seen, not in an official way, not as in a doctor-patient relationship, but just to
Holy shit.
get an understanding about Ms. Clancy's problems. And that this doctor recommended Lamictal or lamotrigine as a medication that could be very helpful, with regard to the depression she was experiencing, the issues with mood and the
Right,
like.
Fayette?
And so in looking at Dr. Tuff's notes,
It's a massacre.
there is a note,
It
I
was
believe,
awful.
on December 1st of 2022, in which they discuss Lamictal as a real possible medication. And then by mid-December, it was really a very, very difficult time. The whole month of December, in many ways, was very difficult. But after this experience,
Yeah, we have a question.
So you talked about the defendant.
He's just pontificating. He's giving a fucking lecture, like he's
the
in his
defendant talking to
classroom.
Dr. Tufts about the Lamictal. Was there another provider that she talked to about Lamictal?
yes,
And who was that?
that was nurse practitioner Gelada.
And eventually, was Lamictal prescribed by one of these providers?
Well, really, by both. And when you say talking, it was a written communication and not a verbal one.
And so, could you tell from the records whether or not Ms. Clancy filled the prescription for Lamictal?
Yes.
What is Lamictal?
Lamotrigine is actually, Lamictal is an anticonvulsant that was approved for bipolar disorder back in the early 2000s, I think 2003, for bipolar disorder. Now, it's used for epilepsy, but also been found by the FDA to be extremely helpful in depression related to bipolar disorder.
And after receiving the 3 recommendations to try Lamictal and the prescription from Dr. Tufts, which she filled, did the defendant tell you whether or not she took the Lamictal?
She told me that she had decided not to take the Lamictal because she was concerned about the potential for a rash, a serious rash.
And the fact that 3 providers recommended this medication to help her and the defendant chose not to take it because of the potential of this rash, was that significant to you in any way in your evaluation?
Yes.
And how so?
Well, Dr. Tufts had written the prescription and it had been filled. Actually, Nurse Gelada also wrote a prescription for the Lamictal, and Ms. Clancy told her, well, you can cancel that because I already have a prescription of Lamictal from Dr. Tufts. What was concerning was that I don't see evidence that Dr. Tufts was notified that she had decided against the Lamictal. And so that would have given a provider
I never
an
heard of
opportunity
this one.
to think about
I'm
something
glad
else
it's helping
that
you.
also could help in this domain. But yet Ms. Clancy had decided not to take it, but also not to tell the doctor that she had decided not to take it.
Well, Doctor,
me
was
too,
there also something that you noticed in the way Ms. Clancy described to you, how she was feeling at McLean Hospital when she was there versus the description of her feelings in the McLean records?
Yes.
And what was the difference between the two, and how was it significant in your evaluation?
I recall that she told me that she felt like a zombie, was very, very significantly affected. And certainly while the records at McLean demonstrate that she was not doing well, there were differences in terms of how she characterized that.
And when a patient is characterizing how she felt at a certain time in different ways, one to you and a different way to her actual provider at the time, is that concerning in any way?
Well, yes.
And why is that?
Well, the more candid a patient can be with the symptoms that they're experiencing, the better able the prescriber is to make a determination about how best to treat those symptoms. And also, it can be very helpful in diagnosis as well.
And did you also take note of the appointment Dr. Tufts had with the defendant on January 23rd, 2023 in the records, and the fact that the defendant denied experiencing suicidal or homicidal ideation in that meeting?
Yes.
And how was that significant, if it was?
Well, Ms. Clancy had been looking into alternative treatments and had discussed with Dr. Tufts earlier the potential for esketamine. This is an FDA-approved medication that has to be administered by a doctor within a facility, but it can have rapid positive effects in treating depression. And so in that note, Dr. Tufts wrote that the potential for esketamine treatment or transcranial magnetic stimulation were ones that they were exploring.
Now, Doctor, did you discuss with Ms. Clancy, or did she describe to you in any detail, her ability to suppress her feelings and kind of mold her behavior into what she wanted people to see?
Yes.
And what did she tell you about that?
Well, I believe it was a Christmas time with her family, a morning breakfast, in which she stated she was not feeling well, not doing well, but yet felt the need to act like she was cooking and helping her husband cook. And she questioned why she would do that or engage in that behavior when her family knew that she was struggling and having difficulty. So she used the word fake with regard to just how she was attempting to present to her family. So this was on reflection in talking to me about that behavior at that time.
And did she also tell you about an incident at Spalding Hospital when she was interacting with a friend of hers who was visiting there after she went to Spalding Hospital for rehabilitation?
Yes.
And what did she tell you about that?
She told me that this friend who visited was a longtime friend from when they were both really quite young. And that when this friend visited, Ms. Clancy engaged in trying to remember how she characterized it, gossip, really talking about kind of the old times and catching up basically on news that this friend, I believe her name was Amy Bevins, they had similar or shared experiences. And so Ms. Clancy told me she was upset at Spalding Hospital because this superficial conversation that she had without discussion of the incident of 24 January 2023, that gave an impression, maybe a false impression of Ms. Clancy, and that it hurt the friendship as a result. And she felt that Spalding Hospital had they provided better psychiatric care, better mental health care, she would not have been so superficial in talking with her friend.
Did she also express anger to you that the staff at Spalding had prioritized her spinal cord injury needs over her mental health needs?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Did Ms. Clancy tell you or express anger to you that the staff at Spalding Hospital had prioritized her spinal cord injury needs over her mental health needs?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, I'd like to put into evidence excerpts from the Spalding records showing the mental health consult and treatment of Ms. Clancy.
They may be admitted.
And so, Doctor, did you have an opportunity to review the Spalding records?
Yes.
And did you see in the Spalding records that not only a psychiatrist, but also a psychologist and a social worker met with Ms. Clancy while she was at Spalding multiple times?
Yes.
And is there anything about the inconsistency of Ms. Clancy telling you that she didn't receive that treatment or that focus at Spalding versus what the records show that are significant in your evaluation of her?
Well, it's inconsistent and doesn't match up with that collateral information. So her depiction of the lack of mental health care at Spalding didn't match up with the evidence from Spalding in terms of the documents. Spalding is a rehab hospital, and that is they were really concentrated on the spinal injury. but also did have mental health services available.
And Doctor, moving along in your analysis, did you look into and evaluate the defendant's decision to send Patrick Clancy on errands on January 24th, 2023?
Yes.
And what stood out to you as significant in what you learned from the records and from Ms. Clancy herself in that area?
I asked Ms. Clancy to tell me about that that afternoon, and specifically that decision for takeout. And as I recall, she told me that she texted her husband Patrick basically to say, what would you think about having takeout? It's been a long day. And a fairly broad, open-ended request, and that he responded positively. And from then, she made the arrangements to look up the distance between their home, and 3V restaurant in Plymouth, but also looking at basically making plans to have the food ordered. And she had texted her husband ultimately and asked him about, to tell her what order to make. And so in looking at the record, it was really reversed. Instead of starting with asking her husband, what would you think about takeout? How about getting takeout? The record shows that Ms. Clancy did a lot of searching prior to that in terms of 3V, the distance, and the like. So there were a number, getting information prior to requesting a text, sending a text to her husband. And in the text, rather than saying, what would you think about getting takeout, she said, how about getting takeout at 3V? I am, it's been a long day, et cetera. And so this reversal in terms of what she told me and what actually we see in the collateral, I thought was significant.
How so?
Well, she told me that the only restaurant that she could remember about getting takeout was 3V. And Patrick told me that they had never gotten takeout from 3V. He named West End Grill and Chestnut Grill as places that were in Duxbury and close by that they liked and that they often got takeout from. They had been to 3V and they liked it. They had gone as a family, but they had never gotten takeout there, takeout from 3V. And so
is anybody going to bring up the fact that it was closed?
Presenting
the regular shit was closed.
Not just the idea of takeout, but how about 3V? And she had already done lots of checking about distance and the like. I thought was inconsistent.
Yes, Clara.
What I saw from the record was not what she told me in terms of the order in which she made those decisions, and so I saw that as being significant.
And was there a similar scenario with the request of Patrick from the defendant to also go to CVS?
Yes.
And so what was the difference between what she told you about the plan to go to CVS and or what she told Patrick and what she had done in terms of research?
Well, the research for, I think it was Miralax, which was suggested for Cora's constipation. They had an appointment that morning in pediatrics, and this was suggested that the Miralax and CVS was something that Ms. Clancy looked into sometime after 4 o'clock, but not long after 4 o'clock, and well before she contacted her husband. But that she did not communicate to her husband the importance of picking up Miralax at CVS, who she had called, until really right before he left. So he had planned on going to 3B, driving to 3B, almost 6 miles, to get the takeout. And then she also added on that other errand right before he left.
And so was it significant to you that she had researched the Miralax and looked into CVS an hour before, but just added that that part of the errand on right before her husband left?
Yes.
And why?
Well, it lengthened the trip. It added one extra obligation for Patrick, and that would make for a longer time than he was away.
His friends.
And moving along in your analysis, you discuss Ms. Clancy's suicide attempt, and you say that it was serious, but required sequential decision making. Is that correct?
Can you just repeat that?
Sure. In your report, you describe Ms. Clancy's suicide attempt as serious, correct?
Yeah.
Correct.
And you also state that it required sequential decision-making. Is that correct?
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about why you found that it was serious and how you found that it required that sequential decision-making?
Well, I think in looking over her records previous to that day, 24 January, she had contacted Aspire twice, the suicide hotline, and spoken to them.
Yeah.
And really, as I recall, since early December, had been speaking about suicidal ideation. So this was something that that was significant for her. There was, of course, an assessment in the emergency department on the 15th of December. So you look through the record and that you do see that she was concerned about self-harm and suicidal ideation. If we look at the actual day after the children were killed, or after the children were strangled, Callan was still living at the time that EMS arrived.
Barely. He was able to be revived. He wasn't. He had no heartbeat.
She told me that she got a knife from the
Let's
block,
be exact.
in the kitchen, and then went upstairs and attempted to cut herself. That she also took pills or took an overdose. And I asked her about that, really trying to understand.
Objection. What are you trying to understand?
No, overruled.
Really to try and understand how she accomplished the overdose. Because if you're swallowing lots and lots of pills, that can be difficult. And so how many handfuls of pills did you take or whatever? And then she told me that she had slashed the screen and dove out the window.
Doctor, if I could ask you a question. In terms of taking the pills, what did Ms. Clancy tell you about how she took the pills?
I'm sorry?
What did Ms. Clancy tell you about how she took the pills?
It wasn't really very clear.
That they were smashed up.
Objection. The question, what she said, is the question.
Do you recall what she said?
I'm sorry?
Do you recall what she said about taking the pills, whether she took handfuls or did something else?
Oh, she did not say that she took handfuls. She did not describe the overdose.
Yes.
In any specific
terms. She did crush them.
Did she tell you anything about crushing up pills?
Objection. Leading question.
Leading. Fuck you.
Already been answered. Next question.
Did she give you any other information about taking the pills?
No.
Oh, she didn't get the answer she wanted.
Now, if you could tell us that portion that I asked you about earlier, what is sequential decision making, and how did you see that in her behavior?
Well, as I mentioned, she, after strangling the 3 children with the exercise bands, she
I don't have control over the commercials.
Went to the kitchen. She got a knife, and then ascended yet another group of steps.
Apparently, this is
to her bedroom, to their bedroom, and described the attempt or cutting her wrists as well as her neck.
Exactly.
And also described the overdose in barely. It was just hard for me to get a good idea about how specifically the overdose occurred, what she did. But she omitted some things that I thought were significant.
And what things did she omit that you think were significant?
Well, she omitted the fact that she had actually crushed the pills. And I found that to be quite significant.
And how did you learn that she had crushed the pills?
Do you want to hear?
I learned after interviewing her husband, Patrick. And he went through
Patrick.
that evening and talked about coming to the home.
How did Patrick know she crushed the pills? He was not there.
On the bedside table, there was a wine tumbler with powdered medication.
Guys, we are supposed to believe that a nurse took bullshit implements and crushed up pills on her fucking table and then put that into a glass of lemonade and gave it to herself. That's what we're supposed to believe. We're supposed to believe that a nurse grabbed the largest kitchen knife and was like, I don't know how to use. No one slashed the fucking screen. This is the most improbable part. We're supposed to believe all of this. Yeah, I'm gonna put it at normal so you guys can hear him regular speed, and then maybe you'll. Here we go.
Medication, that there was still some in the wine tumbler, and I had not heard. I mean, she had not told me that she had actually crushed the medication, and I know that in Dr. Resnick's report, and also in what Lindsay Clancy told me, that she had lemonade in that wine tumbler when she took the overdose. And when I asked Patrick Clancy, he told me that they didn't think they had any lemonade in the house. That was not typical at all.
And Doctor, what is the significance?
Again, Patrick.
I'm sorry, were you not finished?
You done with that? Hold on. You done with that answer? All right, next question.
And so, Doctor, what is the significance to you, if anything, of this atypical use of lemonade and the crushed powder in the cup?
You say what is atypical?
I think you just said that Patrick Clancy said it wasn't typical to have lemonade, correct?
Correct.
So is there any significance to you to the fact that there was lemonade in the cup and that there was powder residue in the cup? Or, sorry, Pat, was there any significance to the fact that Lindsay Clancy told you that there was lemonade in the cup and that Patrick Clancy saw powdered residue in the cup?
Yes, it made sense that lemonade would be in the cup if you're trying to take an overdose of medication that you've crushed, just because of the bitterness that these pills have. So that made sense. I asked her more about the lemonade, and she told me that it had been in the wine tumbler from the night before.
And in terms of the decision-making process, like what types of decisions is she making? Are you referring to, what to take and how to take it and when to take it and when to cut herself, those types of decisions?
Well, crushing pills is really a challenge if you don't have the right equipment, if you don't have like a mortar and a pestle that they might have in a pharmacy. And so what I wondered about was that process of crushing the pills to the point that they were powder in order then to put them in lemonade and then drink them. And so that is, to crush pills, significant number of pills into fine powder is not an easy thing to do, particularly if you don't have the right equipment. It's just kind of a laborious process. And she also did not, it was Patrick Clancy who told me about the door being locked. And she told me she did not recall locking the door.
And
he's
in terms
so
of
helpful, isn't he?
Ms. Clancy's ability to execute the strangulation of her children, is there anything about how she did it, what she did, that stood out to you in your evaluation?
Yes.
And what is that?
That is hilarious.
Ms. Clancy told me that she, after the phone call with her husband, she returned the call, that was when she took Dawson down the steps into her husband's office to strangle him. And I asked Ms. Clancy about what she remembered about what she said to Dawson to get him to go down the steps and leave his sister and brother upstairs. And was there resistance, verbalization, et cetera, crying? And she said she could not recall that. She could only recall bringing him down the steps and then strangling him. Crazy. And then she repeated that the next child was Cora, that she went back upstairs and did not recall how she got Cora down the steps, how Cora came down the steps.
Yeah, no recollection of doing this stuff. It's like she was drugged before these things happened. And strangled
Cora. And then lastly, that she went up to get Callan. And I asked her, I said, where was Callan?
Yeah.
Upstairs. And she said, well, maybe in a playpen, often, she said she couldn't really remember, but then bringing Callan down. And he was the last child to be strangled, all during this time where this voice is over and over again saying, this is your last chance. You have to kill the children before you kill yourself.
Doctor, is there any significance to the fact that this voice is telling her to kill the children, but not telling her how to kill the children?
Yes.
And what is that?
Just like adults, children have a will to survive, strong will to survive. I think it's just part of being human. And so...
guys, I want to also bring up one major thing, okay? Lindsay Clancy, according to the timeline of the whole day, took Cora to the doctor herself, drove Cora to the doctor herself. Guys, she had stopped driving weeks prior to these murders happening. She had stopped driving. Okay. Around mid-December, because she had worsening depression, severe insomnia, and overwhelming side effects from all of the meds. Cora went to the doctor. Now remember, this is during COVID 2023. 2023. Yes, I can. I will attempt to do that. I can adjust that here now, Kevin, as well. She went in a mask. Now I ask you again, because Patrick's current wife looks almost exactly like Lindsay. If that woman went in a mask to take Cora to the doctor, could she have passed for Lindsay on the day in question? Could Lindsay have been incapacitated this whole time? Could this story that Lindsay is telling all of these people about her day be the one that was told to her over and over and over, not only by Patrick, but by the attending nurses and doctors who were constantly discussing her case while she was on propofol for 3 full days? Bye, sweetheart. I love you. Is that a possibility? Because she was not driving. The part of the story where all of this falls apart from the get is that she drove Cora by herself to the doctor. No, she did not. No, she did not. Right there is where Lindsay's out of the picture. From that moment forward, in that day, Lindsay was not here. Okay? Lindsay was not present. Yeah, let me see if I can find that. Now, the alleged CVS video, okay, where he walks into the CVS and everything. Yeah. Let's take a look at that here. Patrick Clancy, CVS, slow down. Here we go. Okay. So let's put this one up here. All right. Everyone pay attention. This is Patrick Clancy. And let's watch what happens when he goes into the CVS. This is the first errand that he does during his time away from home. Okay. No, they investigated Patrick for under 24 hours, Caitlin. Within about 18 hours, he was off of the suspect list. Totally cleared. Totally cleared. Here he comes. We're going to watch this. It's a whole 44 seconds, guys. Here he is. A bunch of shit in his hand for some reason. That's the entrance. Now we're going to go to the other camera view. Who is in the gray hoodie handing him something? Oh, and there it goes. Did y'all see that? Did y'all see the handoff? Gray hoodie lady hands him something right there. Could it be the phone? Could it be the watch? There it goes again. And there's the handoff. Boom. Yeah, nobody understands how he had straight hair here and curly hair at the restaurant and 2 different pairs of shoes and the changing of the clothes between here and the restaurant, which only took him a mere 7-8 minutes to get. And was that a mask that she is wearing? Yeah. Yeah, y'all. Sus AF. Okay. There is so much evidence in this man's timeline that does not fucking add up at all that it is frustrating to me to no end. What just happened? No, I want to share this one instead. There we go. That's what's happening. Like, totally nuts. Totally nuts.
I know that Dr. Resnick described Ms. Clancy as acting as if she were a puppet, but the children are not puppets. And just in looking at the Cape Cod video where Ms. Clancy is holding Callan and Dawson and Cora are there, I mean, they both are active. They can walk, they can run. And so to make the determination about
Can I see counsel at sidebar?
Sidebar.
Where we are in regards to this. So I'm going to excuse you till tomorrow morning.
Oh,
You've
and the day
heard
is
a lot of
over.
evidence, but you haven't heard all of it, right? And like I've said before, you haven't heard the
You
closing arguments
haven't
of the attorneys.
even
You haven't heard
finished
law.
the
You're gonna have to abide
direct
with it. So you still have to keep an open mind. You still have to follow those instructions.
on
Don't
the
read anything about this. Don't listen to anything about
motherfucking
this. Don't
last
watch anything about
witness.
this. And don't talk about it with anyone. You've been so good at following those instructions for all these weeks. I'm just going to ask you to kind of hang with those instructions a little bit longer. And so with that, I'm going to excuse you till tomorrow morning. We will continue.
Okay, guys. So we'll be back tomorrow morning. I got to figure out the time, guys, because I am going to go get a sleep study tonight. I got to go sleep in a lab. And then I'll be back at my, that's done at 6 o'clock in the morning. And then I'll be here to, make breakfast for my family. So maybe 7:30, 8 o'clock again tomorrow morning, get started. So we're not too far behind. Yeah. Guys, there's so much info in this case, guys, that came in the earlier days of the testimony and everything else. But the truth of the matter is that Patrick was not investigated at all. All of the evidence points towards him and or multiple accomplices. Oh, I'm so happy that her parents are getting the help they need. Just the few factoids, guys. Patrick had tons of meds in his truck because the doctor said to give it to him. No doctor has ever said that. The extra meds when the amount was changed. That's never the direction, ever. But Patrick's just believed it's fine. The fact that his mother not only did not attend his wedding to his new wife, testified for Lindsay. Okay, for Lindsay. Yeah. Guys, it's just, there's no end to it. There's no, yeah. And no, I don't support anybody who kills their babies. But women's health and mental health need to be taken into account. We want justice. I want justice for these babies. And I also want mental health to matter and to be talked about frankly, openly, honestly, raw, and for women's health to get the real research and discussion that it needs in the vernacular, in the zeitgeist, and to normalize the reality of what we go through. All right. Yes, peace and love to Dolly Parton and her family. I hope that she is resting easy and that she's up there with Willie, and oh no, Willie's not dead. What am I thinking? Willie Nelson didn't die. See, guys, I don't even know what day. Today is Tuesday. It's garbage day. I know that. Jimmy Carter. So, yeah. Yeah. What, in my opinion, what do we women need to do to take over the world? Ooh, that's a good question. Girl, Chewini, that's a whole other fucking podcast. We're going to start more discussions about that. Let's talk about how we can do that. Let's talk about how we can do that, because I think you're right. I think we need to, the matriarchy, it's time to rise up. We need a revolution. The matriarchal revolution has begun. And it's going to be good for everybody. That's what I think. She's giving God the what for, probably. All right, guys, I'm going to set up the live for tomorrow. Then you'll know the time. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you for the super chats, the memberships. Thank you to my mod mafia. Thank you to the replay crew. I couldn't do this without any of you guys. Please don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and all that stuff. And wherever you're watching, thank you so much. And I will see you all on the flippity dippity.